What would you do if you suddenly found out your mortgage company had sold your house right out from under you, even though you always paid on time? An Altadena family suddenly facing eviction turned to Eyewitness News when that happened to them. Tonight, in an Eyewitness News investigation, reporter Rutabe Shabazi gets results.
This Altadena house has been home for Louise and Keith Sinclair, who bought it in 2003. They've been living in it with 4 of their kids. Last year, they say they got a loan modification with Ocwen Financial Corporation. Then they say they got a call and later a letter notifying them Ocwen had sold their loan to NationStar Mortgage. Then in June, a knock at the door.
They came and knocked on the door. That's how we found out that the house had been sold.
They say although they'd received no notice prior to that day, the person at the door told them they had 2 weeks to leave their house because a company called Sage Equities had bought it in foreclosure and that they were expected to pay rent in the meantime.
We thought we was doing everything, paying our mortgage every month, paying our mortgage every month, and then they're going to sell your house up underneath you, without you knowing.
The Sinclairs say they've always paid their mortgage on time in full and that this is the documentation to prove it. But then in June, after their first payment to NationStar, the mortgage company sent a check back to them for the full amount. They say they made calls to figure out why NationStar was attempting to refund the payment but couldn't get an answer, so they never cashed the check and continued to make payments every month. And they say NationStar has continued to collect their money even as they were repeatedly told by Sage Equities they had to leave their house. The Sinclairs say a NationStar representative finally gave them a reason for the foreclosure over the phone.
They said that we didn't notarize one paper of the modification, and in fact we did.
Throughout the summer, they say no one from NationStar would help them, and they began packing their belongings, thinking it was only a matter of time before they lost their house.
Every time we call them back, they're giving us a runaround, saying call back in 2 days, call back in 2 days.
3 months of trying, and the Sinclairs still weren't getting any answers. After Eyewitness News made numerous phone calls, Ocwen still said they couldn't comment on the case. But NationStar released a statement saying, quote, "We are very sorry for the situation Mr. Sinclair was in, and we deeply regret the difficulty he experienced. As a result of KABC bringing this situation to our attention, we were able to expedite our review and take 2 important steps. First, we've rescinded the sale of the home, which means Mr. Sinclair will not have to leave his house. Second, we're going to honor the previous loan modification that was put in place."
If you own property in America, particularly if you're paying your mortgage, and a company institutes a foreclosure proceeding against you, that proceeding is not legal if you didn't know about it.
Jamie Court works with the group Consumer Watchdog.
Unfortunately today, banks are foreclosing in ways that circumvent the law, that are taking too many shortcuts.
Court says if you find yourself in this position, there are things you can do.
You should definitely consult a lawyer. You should definitely consult your bank. And if you're paying your bills on time, you don't have anything to be worried about. But you need to assert your rights.
We had nowhere to turn to. We didn't know who to go to, who to talk to.
Now the Sinclairs say they can take a breath, knowing they can stay in their home. But they say it doesn't make up for their experience.
Well, it shouldn't have never happened in the first place. We've been paying our mortgage on time, and the modification was approved. And I'm still very angry about it.
They're now talking to attorneys about possible compensation from the mortgage companies and trying to figure out what they can do to fight for others who may be experiencing the same thing.
Yeah, it's still unbelievable. It's terrible. Like I said, no one should have to go through what we went through, but there's people going through it right now, but they don't know what to do
and who to turn.